Good morning, Warriors. Welcome to Morning Adrenaline. Today is Thursday, February 4th, 2026. And as always, it is time to wake up the warrior. Hey, you probably just woke up not that long ago. And the reality is, when you woke up, you didn't decide who you're going to be today. Your identity already decided how you're going to show up in the world today, how people are going to see you, how they're going to view you. And whether you realize it or not, how you move today is being watched. And by some of you, it's actually being evaluated. People are deciding who you are at your core. Are you worth knowing or are you forgettable? So here's a hard truth. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they act like what they do lacks importance. How you show up lacks meaning. And neglect to understand that opportunity is quietly deciding whether to come closer to you or move on from you. So let me use an analogy to paint a clear picture here. Think about a McDonald's drive-thru. This is something I've thought about for years and years. Someone has to work that window. The world needs people doing every kind of job. That part's true. But here's the question most people never ask. Does it have to be me? So let's picture the average drive-through experience. The employee working the window is low energy. They have flat tonality and no real presence. Not powerful anyway. Not even average or mediocre. They're just people showing up for a paycheck and nothing more. And you can tell. Now, here's what you might miss. If you're an employee there, that environment makes it incredibly easy to stand out. Because through that drive-through window, something else is happening. People are driving through that have influence. Some of them might be hiring. And if nothing else, your boss is deciding right now whether to promote you or not, or who to promote. See, the strangers that drive through don't announce themselves. You're not going to necessarily recognize them. And I can tell you, they're not looking for the tired version of you or anyone else. In fact, they're not looking for someone who blends in. The reality is they weren't looking for you at all. You simply caught their attention, for better or for worse. You were memorable or forgettable once they drove away. But once their attention is captured, your evaluation did begin. So let's jump in. I'm calling today's topic, No Matter the Job. If you want to advance in life, you become the best at what you do, regardless of what you do. Not because the job defines you, and not because someone is watching, even though they are, but because how you do anything trains who you are becoming. Every shift, every interaction, every ordinary moment. This is where most people get it backwards. They think opportunity shows up first and then identity follows. But it never works that way. Identity always shows up before opportunity does. Who you are decides how you work. How you work decides what doors open. And once those doors open, the person you've already built is who walks through them, no matter the job. So here's the question of the day. Where in your life are you treating what you do every day like it doesn't matter? With the understanding that it's actively training your habits, shaping your reputation, and deciding your future. That's right. Right now, today, you're putting another brick on the wall of your future. So we're not talking about your big goals here, but rather your day-to-day actions. We're talking about the process that you use and that you repeat. The way you show up in the small things, because that process is taking you somewhere or nowhere, depending entirely on your identity and how you execute what's in front of you today. So let's establish some standards that you can use to move forward with. Up to this point, all we've done is expose the reality that your identity is already at work, that ordinary moments are not neutral, that how you show up is quietly deciding what you're trusted with next. Now we're going to move from observation to ownership of standards. Because insight without structure collapses, and awareness without action challenges and changes nothing. So what follows are not suggestions. They're not meant to motivate you. They're not dependent on your circumstances and excuses, and self-proclaimed victimhood will not bypass them. These are the standards that determine whether you stay where you are or earn your way forward. So here's standard number 1. Average has consequences. So I like to speak in fact and reality. So let's remove emotion and take in reality for a minute if you don't mind. Average is not neutral. It's also not safe. And it's not temporary unless you change, because without change, here's what actually happens. You're not going to grow. You don't earn more. You don't gain leverage. You don't change your legacy. And your family outcome stays exactly where it's at right now. And it's not because you failed miserably, but because you never demanded more of yourself. See, this is how most lives stall. How complete stories of one's life never get written. Stuck on chapter 1 from the age of 1 to the age of 81 years old. See, this doesn't always come from bad decisions necessarily, although it can, but from comfortable ones. Comfort doesn't destroy people overnight. It keeps you stuck right where you're at. Your income never changes. You keep the same habits, and you hold the same ceiling. And years later, people call it bad luck. The man stuck it to me. Rich people suck. It wasn't outside forces or misfortune. It was you all along, brick by brick, day by day, process by process. You created your reality. Right now, today, you are creating your reality. See, comfort feels good and safe in the moment, but excellence creates exciting exits. Those are the facts. Standard 2, contrast creates attention. You can learn by watching excellence. But if you don't feel capable of excellence right now, if you're not feeling capable yet, that doesn't need to be the starting point. Start with contrast. Contrasting yourself from average or even subpar creates attention. It creates eyeballs. People are looking at you. They're watching you. They're evaluating you. And if you're acting appropriately or if you're acting in a positive manner, that's all a good thing. It's good attention. And see, attention is what changes outcomes and trajectories. So look around your environment. Average effort, low energy, people doing just enough to get by. But that shouldn't discourage you. That should light a fire and signal an opportunity for you. Because contrast is an environment where less than good is the norm. You don't need to be exceptional yet. You just need to be different in a positive way from everybody around you. You need to be more present, more disciplined, more intentional. So while others blend in, you stand out calmly and consistently. See, most people wait until they feel excellent to act differently. High value people act differently, and attention follows them. And once that attention is captured, that's when your momentum starts. That's how movement begins. Here's standard number 3. Lead yourself first. Listen, before you lead anything else, you need to lead your own emotional state, your tone, your posture, your presence. These things communicate long before you open your mouth to speak. And understand this clearly. You don't need to judge anyone for average. You don't need to correct them for being subpar. You just can't afford to become like them. Because leadership isn't about superiority. It's about control of self first, leading by example. See, leaders don't leak frustration. They don't broadcast stress. They project stability. And it's not a personality trait. It's a trained skill. Moods are managed. Energy is regulated. Composure is practiced. High performers don't wait for better conditions to show up. They become the stabilizing force inside bad conditions. And that's why people trust them. That's why they're watched. And that's why they're given more responsibility. And with that responsibility, they create value. And with that value, they earn and create more for themselves, for their lifestyle, for their family, for their legacy. Leadership must start internally before leadership of others is possible. Here's standard number 4. Build toward mastery. Simple work becomes sloppy when the mind checks out. So high performers do something most people don't. They stay engaged. They will look for ways to improve what they touch. Speed, accuracy, efficiency, care. Not to impress anyone, but to get better on purpose. They're working the process when nobody's watching to get better on purpose. Because listen, mastery isn't something you wake up with. It's something you build through repetition, learning, and then refinement. People who hate their work are rarely trapped. They're disengaged because they stopped growing inside of it. They stopped learning. They stopped sharpening. See, high value people treat every role in their life like training. They ask, how can I do this better than I did it yesterday? What skill can I build here? What weakness can I tighten up today? And that mindset for them changes everything. Because growth creates engagement. Engagement builds competence, and competence is what eventually turns into mastery. Here's standard number 5. Be noticeably different. It's a little bit different than the last one because different isn't loud, but it must be confident. It's not forced. It's not performative, but it's very intentional. It's the extra effort no one asked for. The consistency others won't sustain. The standard that doesn't fluctuate. And sometimes that difference starts small. So let's go back to that McDonald's drive-through window employee experience. Most people expect nothing from them. So a warm smile alone catches people's attention because most drive-through employees don't even offer that. But when you go one step further, that's when it sticks. The attendant leans out and gives a quick fist bump with the order. When drop the bag, drop the fist bump. Drops a short, witty comment. Throws in a genuine compliment. Now you're not just another customer moving through the line. You're thinking about that purpose, that person. What was the purpose of what you did right there with that person? And the thing is, they didn't just hand you food, they changed the moment for you. They changed the experience. They exceeded your expectation. They filled your bucket. And here's what most people tend to overlook. When you lift someone else up like that, you don't just make their day better, you create a memory, and memories are what get repeated, talked about, referred. That's how attention moves beyond the moment. But here's the real payoff. When you make somebody else feel better, you feel better all day too. If you do that consistently all day long and keep your energy and just genuinely acknowledge people, smile at people, fill their bucket, as I like to refer it. There's a book called Have You Filled a Bucket Today? It's a kid's book that every adult should read. Have you filled their bucket? Because when you fill their bucket, your bucket gets full too. Your energy rises. And guess what? Your shift, your 8-hour shift in the fast food drive-through line moves faster. But don't miss the bigger picture here. Now take that same idea onto an airplane. A flight attendant, as you're landing, tells a simple joke. And what happens? Everybody in the cabin, of course, laughs. And it's not because the joke was really funny. It was probably funny, but it wasn't hilarious. It wasn't incredible. It wasn't exceptional. But because the expectation was exceeded. And then something interesting happens. Have you ever noticed that after everybody laughs, the joke's told, everybody laughs, and then the plane starts to buzz with excitement for the next minute? People turn to each other, they smile, they start to converse. Some of the people there will post the experience on social media. Others will tell the story later to friends and family. And that's how visibility spreads. Do you think that person's boss notices when everybody leaves the plane with a smile? Or like, what's going on? The manager goes, what's going on? Why are these people happier than those people? And then they start to realize what's happening on the plane. Do you think that person's more promotable? Now, here's the part that will change your life, though. When you string a few days like this together, people start to recognize you. A few weeks, you're remembered. A few months, you're trusted. And trust is what leads to promotions, new responsibilities, and better opportunities. That's how new employers notice you. That's how doors open inside your own company without the need to knock. Not because you asked, but because you stood out in a way most people never will. And ultimately, your identity starts to shift and transform quietly and consistently. And that's how you don't just feel better, but you move forward with momentum. Here's standard number 6. Outwork the role. Outwork your job description. Outperform your peers. Outwork the role. Now listen, you can't make this performative. People are going to see right through it. You must be, however, consistent. Consistently early, focused, finishing everything you do strong. See, hard work is the universal language of trust and high performance. People don't promote potential, they promote proof. See, I tell my kids this all the time. 100% effort is not 100% effort is a life skill. 100% effort is a life skill. It's not a sports skill, it's not a school skill, it is a life skill. Because effort follows you everywhere you go. A friend once told me something true. He said, for the world to work, we need people doing employee jobs. Cleaning bathrooms, cooking food, doing the unglamorous work that others are unwilling to do. For the world to work, we need people to fill into those jobs. And he's right. But I'm going to ask the question that I asked earlier again. Does it have to be you forever? There's nothing wrong with the work. There's no shame in the work, but it's okay to give yourself permission to dream bigger. Instead of cleaning bathrooms, what about owning the janitorial company? Instead of cooking food, what about running the restaurant? And that shift doesn't happen through wishing it. It doesn't happen through talking about it. It happens by outworking the role that you're currently in. Doing more than what's required, carrying responsibility before you're given authority, proving daily that you can be trusted with more. That's how effort turns into leverage. That's how work turns into ownership. And that's how legacy is formed for you and those that follow you. Outwork the role until the role can't contain you anymore. Standard 7, lead before you're asked. Lead before you're asked to. Leadership isn't a title. It's a behavior. It's proactivity before permission, ownership before instruction, problem solving before excuses. Most people wait to be asked or told. They wait until something is officially their responsibility. They make leadership wait until they're promoted. Leaders, guys, don't wait. They see an issue and move forward. They move toward it. They notice friction and remove it. They take responsibility for outcomes, even when no one assigned them with the task. They don't need to be loud about it or dramatic, but quietly and with consistency. They ask better questions. They anticipate needs. They handle problems instead of pointing them out. And here's the rule that never fails. Responsible leaders command respect all the time. But you don't typically become a leader for the sole reason that someone gifted you a title. You get the title because you've already been leading. That's how people start trusting you with more. How doors open. How promotions stop being requests and start being decisions made about you. Lead before you're asked, and eventually you'll be leading others, not just yourself. So as we wind this down, let's quickly recap. No matter the job, the standard stays the same. Average has consequences. It doesn't ruin lives loudly. It freezes them quietly. Contrast creates attention. Standing out doesn't require perfection, just intentional difference. You lead yourself first. Your emotional control sets the ceiling on what you're trusted with. You build towards your mastery by staying engaged, learning, tightening, and improving where others check out. You become noticeably different with confident presence, care, and consistency, and attention follows you. You outwork the role, not to stay there, but to outgrow it. And you lead before you're asked. Responsibility attracts authority every single time. So here's the final question that I want to leave you with. Where can you show up differently today, at home, at work, or in your daily interactions, so that you're impossible to ignore for all the right reasons? Because you never know when the next opportunity is watching, quietly observing, waiting to see who's ready, and prepared to let the right person in. Work your body, feed your mind, build your soul, wake up the warrior. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Stuck in your mind, fighting shadows of a story you left behind.